Let us call to order the Parks and Recreation Committee. Let the record reflect that all members are present. Can the clerk please read the first and only item?
Minutes of the May 27, 2026 Parks and Recreation Transportation Committee meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Wonderful. Is there any questions, discussion, public testimony? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Having no further business and seeing no objections, the Parks and Recreation Committee is adjourned.
I'd like to call to order the Public Safety and Human Services Committee. Clerk, can you please, let the record reflect that all members are present. Clerk, can you please read the item?
Minutes of the May 27, 2026 Public Safety and Human Services Committee meeting.
All right, is there any public testimony or? Yeah, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any public testimony or discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Aye.
Yeah.
Minutes. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, clerk, can you please read the next item?
Item PSHS 2026-02, communication from Committee Chair Cowden requesting the presence of the Emergency Management Administrator to provide a briefing regarding public messaging for disasters such as floods, fires, tsunamis, tropical storms, and hurricanes, as well as an update on emergency refuge areas.
Thank you. Can we please have Kima come up? Oh, yeah, move to receive.
Second.
Thank you for coming. In this El Nino year, been getting a lot of requests for information, and so I know you've been out there in the public recently, but please, this is a good opportunity to help the public in general know what we're possibly facing and how they can best be prepared to work with both Kima and on their own for managing what might be happening.
All right, I'll start out with introductions. Elton Ushio, Emergency Management Administrator, Head of Kima.
Patrick Gallagher, excuse me, Staff Officer with Kima.
Good morning, Sarah Lux, Staff Specialist with Kima.
Okay, so I had staff assist with preparing this briefing to address the items requested by Committee Chair Cowden. So I'll go over these several slides. I get into quite a bit of detail, and while I normally am not the type that wants to give a wall of words, I wanted to make sure full information was provided along with reference, links, and things later on, because you have a copy of it. You can keep it in your pocket if you have subsequent questions from the community or anything like that. So let's start off here. Thank you for your staff for putting it on the screen because my laptop did not power up upon coming here. All right, so I like to start off always with our mission and vision statements. I won't read those to you, but I have them in there just for reference. Public messaging. So we like to tell all of our partners that disaster and threat awareness, preparedness and resilience truly begins at the individual and household levels, and that extends to our communities, through all levels of government and our private sector community-based partners. It's everyone's responsibility or everyone's kuleana. On that thread, public information and warning is a FEMA core capability, and it is a shared responsibility. In this brief presentation, I will show you the various levels in which public information warning takes place. But it, again, goes down to the individuals and communities, but because it's everyone's responsibility to make sure you have access to information and multiple means of access. You guys have heard me over the years sometimes give you quotes and things like that. So I'd like to quote President John F. Kennedy, where he reminded us, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. So everyone has to do their part. Individual citizens, households, again, all partners. Okay? And in Hawaii, we call that kuleana. So this is a slide showing IPAWS architecture. IPAWS is an acronym for the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. It's a national system that trickles all the way down to local alerting. But rather than just show you that diagram, kind of complex, I'm going to break it down by levels. Federal systems. So the Emergency Alert System, or EAS, those are TV and radio station cut-ins, where you hear that tone and your TV cuts to that, or your radio cuts to that message. When we were kids, that was called the Emergency Broadcast System. Later on, they changed it to an Emergency Alert System. There's a very powerful tool called the Wireless Emergency Alert System, or WEA. So the infamous ballistic missile false alarm incident, everybody's phone went off, that was the WEA system. That is generally utilized by our federal partners, Weather Service. It can be used by HAIMA. It can be used by the counties. So KEMA uses WEA system on occasion. But again, it's very powerful. It hits every smartphone within range of the towers in the selected area. Next, there's NOAA Weather Radio. Older technology, VHF, but people can buy radios at home, or your marine VHF radio. There will be a channel that will sync with NOAA Weather Radio. What's popular with some people are getting those receivers that activate upon getting the signal, and they don't turn on unless there's a alert signal coming to that radio. There are AM, FM band radios that you can buy on Amazon, for example, or from other vendors, where if your local radio station picks up emergency alert system signal, the radio will turn on and give you that message. So those are good tools to have. On the state side, probably the most visible and well-known is the state-owned outdoor warning siren system. The state system, KEMA, we get a lot of calls when things don't work, when people want to have expanded coverages, what have you. And we can advocate and pass on messages or reports of non-functioning sirens. But it really is state of Hawaii owned and managed. In fact, I have a link there for the statewide siren dashboard that HAIMA publishes. It shows the status of sirens statewide. Those who are working fine, those that may be working but need maintenance, those that may be out of service, or those that need contracted service beyond what their staff can do. And they send out every month, or sometimes more often, sometimes less often, siren technicians to do maintenance and repairs on the various sirens island-wide. State also has a number of deployable, remotely programmable message boards and message boards capabilities. So I just have a couple examples up there, like how state can put messages on freeway, roadway signs. One of those I took myself at the Lihue Airport, and that's pretty cool that, as a takeaway from the tsunami warning event last year, one thing that came up was that visitors upon arrival didn't necessarily get that information unless their phones went off when they took it off of airplane mode. So we made sure that, working with Director Sniffen at DOT, that passengers would be told in flight or upon arrival at the gate and in the terminal, the information would all be there. So good improvements were made based on that alone. But that's a state tool and capability. Next, county and KEMA tools, things that we use. You heard about our new vendor, Everbridge, for mass notification. We did an island-wide test yesterday. We're still compiling the results. They are a very popular and common vendor nationwide, and other state entities and counties across the country use them. But they're new to us, so we're learning some lessons from yesterday's test, and we're compiling and, try to see if any adjustments to our protocol need to be made. But those provide local level notification via landline, cellular, email, and we can do text messaging as well. And it has a capability that they call resident connection that mines data from various sources. And so, in the past with our old vendor, when the system was really popular, I think we peaked out at, maybe 25, 26,000 contacts. The new system has 77. Now, there may be some duplicates in that, some old numbers and things, but I believe, staff, correct me if I'm wrong, but last night's successful transmittals were 55,000-ish contacts.
Yeah, that's what I was talking to Megan about that.
So we're going to be compiling and seeing how that went. We normally aren't supposed to do an island-wide test, but the vendor gave us a one-time exception to be able to do that so we can see, and that is very useful. We're getting that information now, and we kept staff back, and the phones rang for about 45 minutes after the test. Even people just, I missed a call from this number, what's this? And others, like members of my family may not have gotten it. But again, it's not automatic cell phone like we are, but it mines data and then it's subscriber based. And then we already have a database of several thousand who have opted in over the years. So that's what that is. County of Kauaʻi maintains a website. Kima maintains our own website as part of the county website. And then our PIOs manage the social media, Facebook and Instagram account. So some people rather have web-based or phone-based information, and we utilize those tools as well. County also has access to deployable message boards that we can use. And in very specific or worst-case scenarios, we'll send first responders and field responders door-to-door to make those alerts. Next, other tools and resources. Longtime partner, Civil Air Patrol, is available on request. And many times we've used them to do coastal flights, especially remote areas with their aircraft with flashing strobe and loudspeakers to announce whatever the warning or notice is. We have various available smartphone apps. If you look in your app store, Android, Apple, whatever, you can buy emergency notification apps and subscribe to those, non-governmental. Those work well. Our local media, KITV, KHON, KGMB, they each have emergency notification or weather alert type app that people can subscribe to. And if people have those, that's great. It's just another source of information. They will get the information fed to them just like we do through official source like the Weather Service, Tsunami Warning Center, what have you. So that's good to have. There are also private partners with their own notification systems. So for example, KIUC subscribers, you may get text or phone notifications or service disruptions and things like that. I believe KIUC uses our same vendor, Everbridge, if I'm not mistaken. We also have a very extensive list of governmental and non-governmental partners at Kima. So although it's old school, we disseminate information by email whenever we have briefings, whenever we have certain important updates or information we need to get out. It goes to an extensive list, and each partner should have their own contact list or phone list or methods of distribution, so we hope things trickle out that way as well. Our state partners, I forgot to mention this earlier, but there's another tool there where if any of you have kids or you are responsible for children and you're a point of contact with a local school, you'll get those messages. School canceled, or tomorrow is certain day as a reminder. And so there's all of these different systems out there. And we just try to make sure that all of our partners with all of these systems get that information so we can get important stuff out to the public. But that last bullet there is no silver bullet. There's no one solution that gets to everyone. It's a layered system. People should ensure that they have multiple means of notification. We will do our best. We will utilize the tools that are available to us. But if people unsubscribe, if people choose not to have any apps that notify them, that's their choice. However, if they've gone back to step one and have that awareness, preparedness, resilience, starting with them and their ohana, they should know, hey, I live in a tsunami evacuation zone, or I'm in a flood zone. Oh, I'm actually pretty near to some facilities, industrial facilities that might have flammable materials or hazardous materials. I mean, it's really good to take personal responsibility and then Yes. Do I need to get tsunami alerts if I live in Kapahi? Maybe not, right? Tsunami's not going to reach there. However, as we tell our communities when we go out and do outreach, awareness of the potential threats wherever you live, work, or frequent. I'll tell you a personal story. I just came back from a family vacation in Oregon, and we went clamming on the coast at this place called Fort Stevens. And we're surrounded by miles of tsunami evacuation zone. So I took the time to dive deeply into their tsunami evacuation maps and then their modeling. And I found little circles or areas of isolation that my family could get to like within 1 to 2 minutes if we were on the beach or if we were at the campsite, because there's no way we would drive to safety in time. So if we had that Cascadia earthquake, there was a plan. And I do that everywhere I go. So, similarly, not everyone's emergency managers, but again, that responsibility does start with each and every one of us. So, emergency refuge areas, update and background. So I do want to provide background, otherwise, to give some context. But back in 2014, when Hawaii Revised Statutes Chapter 127A was passed, responsibilities for the identification and management of public shelters was placed with the counties. Haima used to take the lead and the counties would operate, but then 127A changed it to where Haima may establish guidelines and the counties would take the lead on the identification and management. Kima and the other counties initially used legacy lists. We call them the old yellow books, with data and information on each of the various shelter facilities around the island, inherited from State Civil Defense, which later became Haima. And those facilities had all withstood either EVA or EVA and INIKI in many cases, but they did not meet the true engineering standard. As part of the 127A implementation, Haima convened a group, and they did come up with some published shelter criteria that you can find online. And I have a summary up there. Basically, there's Type B shelters, which are rated to withstand Category 1 hurricanes. There's Type A, Category 2 hurricanes, EHP, or Enhanced Hurricane Protection Area, Cat 3, and EF-COOP, Essential Facility for Continuity of Operations, Cat 4. There's no Cat 5 criteria in Hawaii. I'm not an engineer, but I can tell you that in my experience, in order to get certified at a certain level, it has to be quite strong. Oftentimes able to withstand more, but they won't put their stamp, unless it's would truly exceed that level. So those ratings, pretty solid, but pretty hard to attain. The reality is that state and county government does not or has not had the funding to build new facilities or to retrofit all old facilities to higher standards. But Kima, in no small part with council's support over the years, have slowly built up and hardened select facilities around the island. So we do have improvements made since 127A was implemented. Again, there have been funding limitations, but we continue to work on that. And the state legislature this past session, I think it's still pending final approval by the governor, but they more than doubled Haima's annual allocation for statewide shelter retrofit funding. So could be a busy fiscal year with added funding there. Okay. So enter BARA. BARA is an acronym for Best Available Refuge Area. Now, Kima, we do a lot of things pretty good. Some things also, but I always tell staff we got to look to where we can do better. And we learn just through our interaction with our other sister agencies on other islands that City and County of Honolulu was working on a BARA initiative where they were using a FEMA standard, Best Available Refuge Area, and they had gotten a consultant contractor to assess their buildings and kind of designate which ones meet that BARA standard. So we started talking with Honolulu DEM and they were willing to help us. Funding was kind of prohibitive. Thankfully, because of Kauaʻi's long partnership with the Department of Defense Innovative Readiness Training Program, or DoD IRT program, we were able to get services of military engineers and emergency management people to embark on a multi-year project with us to assess our various shelter facilities. Now, we started migrating then to the term refuge area, because shelter is too close to those Haima shelter and the shelter standards. So we started calling them refuge areas. But we got those services done, and we did want to point out to you folks and the public, and I said this in a live press conference statewide at the governor's office with all of my counterparts. Our facilities statewide, for the most part, should be seen as refuges of last resort. Those are preferable to being outdoors or in a poorly constructed home, in a building or facility or home that is inside a hazardous area, such as somewhere prone to coastal storm surge or river flooding. Single wall construction homes that haven't been retrofitted or hardened, hurricane clips, for wind resistance, or anything not built or renovated to more modern code following Hurricane Iniki, when the codes were, improved, and structures built since then or renovated to code since then generally are quite well off. Anyway, BARA, again, it's not the highest Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, Cat 4 standard. It is a refuge of last resort where no other options or safe options will provide you with something. So next slide. That's what happens when you've been around too long, where I'm saying all the information without looking at my slides, and I talk through everything already, and I look up there, oh, I already said that. Anyway, for recent updates, I did want to give our staff a chance to speak a little bit, because 33 years of service, I'm not forever. I do have to give others the chance to present to council. So with that, staff, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, why don't we share this information? Patrick will say some and hand off to Sarah. Go for it.
Yeah, so we did evaluation of these facilities over the last few years, going out and visiting each one of these, doing measurements of them along with the IRT team to really kind of just assess all of them. Came up with the rooms that we thought would be the best available refuge area, the safest ones in each of those locations. And one of the things that we found is, each of the locations that we had before had some room in that facility that could still actually work as a BARA facility or as a BARA area. And moving on from that, one of the things that we also found is with staffing those operations. With my experience with Red Cross, one of the things that we always had with those is we could open up all of these facilities with a big event. The one linchpin in it was always how many volunteers or how many people could we get to actually man that facility. So one of the things moving forward that we wanted to do was really train the term Elton came up with was the Coalition of the Willing, which is basically a great term for a volunteer that's going to help out in sheltering operations. So we've been training county staff the last few months about how to work in a shelter, and it's kind of based on a lot of the experience I had with Red Cross, and really getting real involvement with not just our volunteer agencies or VOED agencies, but actually with Parks and Recreation, Department of Education, even state agencies like the Department of Health has put people forward with this. So it's a kind of it goes back to our vision statement about whole community involvement. So it's everybody getting involved in our shelter operations. So one of the next things that we're looking at is what we call a yellow book, where it's basically like a shelter manual. So that if you go out to a shelter and you're a volunteer or a coalition of the willing to help out in that shelter, you have all that information. which rooms you can put people in, what the capacity is, that type of thing in each of those shelters. So you have all of that information. We have it both electronically and hard copy, just so they have something that's available. We have something that's available, and you can have something on site. So, go to the next slide.
So before I go to the next slide, more quick information on that term. I didn't think it would stick, but Coalition of the Willing is starting to stick. Under 127A, any governmental employee, state or county, can be designated as an emergency worker and shall take whatever actions necessary if designated by their appropriate chain of command, department head, and requested by the mayor or through delegation, my position. But rather than saying you shall work at the shelter or refuge area, we had a brilliant idea that, hey, we have all of these former responders, former military within the county, within our departments. If they want to volunteer, get trained, and actually, with the blessings of their department, be paid when we activate, that's a very willing coalition instead of people who just get told that they have to go. So that's the approach, and it's been more successful than I imagined, with lots of people, Patrick, getting requests from different offices, individuals, agencies every week to do more training. So with that, next. Sarah.
Good morning, thank you. So this is a map that has all of our bar facilities, bars and bar plus is in red. Our green facilities could be other general use refuge areas. They could be, up for retrofits and renovations in coming phases of the next bar project. But this is just for public awareness, personal planning for yourself, your family, your businesses. And so we publish this list online. We compile the information. This reflects our internal operational manual and mapping component for our ESF6 partners who manage mass care. So dividing them up in districts, we have north and east. We have Kilauea Neighborhood Center Gym, and it's pending reopening. Kilauea Elementary School, Kauaʻi High School, Kauaʻi Middle School, Kauaʻi Elementary School. Central, you have King Kauaʻi, Kauai War Memorial Convention Hall is still undergoing pending retrofits and renovations. Kauaʻi High School, as you know, has a very new shining gym. Chiefest Kamakahele, Hōʻike Community College, also pending retrofits. Kauai Humane Society, if you needed a place to shelter your pets. Wilcox Elementary, Kaloa Neighborhood Center, Kaloa Elementary School and Library, Kalahea Elementary School, Kalahea Neighborhood Center Gym, Eleele Elementary School, Waimea High School, and Waimea Canyon Middle School. While all these facilities are up here, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of them will be open ahead of the event. It depends on the staffing availability that we have for being able to manage these shelters, and that's where we really need volunteers. So some public reminders. These are, as Elton said, refuges of last resort for those without any other options to evacuate to the nearest open refuge area, which will be published on our website, also duplicated in public messaging for like the social media accounts, the Facebook, Instagram, and to our partners in news media. So most of these facilities are not originally designed to meet hurricane shelter standards. They're intended to be only last resorts. And when evacuating, these are not going to have all the supplies that you need. So you need to bring your go kit, bring your food, bring your pet's food, bring your medicines. Medical and functional access needs. If you're doing personal preparedness planning, you want to be able to provide for your family that might have needs for medical functional access needs. And even though we have Kauai Humane Society designated as a pets only shelter, all the shelters, refuge areas that we have available do accept pets, but they would have to be created or leash for the safety of the population of those in the refuge area or for sanitation purposes. So if they could bring their crates, leashes, foods for the pets, that'd be best to handle for them.
Yeah, so the animals need to be crated. I would not allow leashed for safety purposes and because you have humans with pet allergies and what have you. So we would have to keep these animals in a separate location.
I was just going to mention that this is the same info. You know, everybody in emergency management, this is the same information that everybody's saying. All of our VOAG members, Red Cross, when I was with the Red Cross, these are all the exact same messaging that we give out to people for anything.
So I always like to provide you with the path forward. So next slide, you know, we are working on another round of DLT, Department of Defense Innovative Readiness Training support for more BARA. We also want to add private facilities and have memorandums of understanding with those private facilities. There's a wonderful section in 127A, right after the one that covers sheltering, 127A 20, I believe, which is immunity from liability for a private shelter. And we want to start to leverage those to encourage more private facilities to open their doors, reducing the burden on our government-run refuge areas. We are entering a cooperative purchasing agreement with the City and County of Honolulu so that KEMA can directly access DEM's, Department of Emergency Management's contractor for BARA assessments. So as funds become available, be it grant funds, county funds, what have you, we can procure their services or utilize their services on an as-needed basis. So if a new facility is identified, we want it assessed, boom. It makes it really easy for us without having to go to procurement on our own because it's cooperative with Honolulu. I mentioned this already, but that third bullet there, you know, pending approval by governor, Haima is slated to get a very significant increase, like 2.5 times the current budget in additional shelter retrofit funds for statewide use. However, the caveat there is that if you look at the legislative line item, it does say for public facilities, so those can only be used for state or county facilities for retrofits. And finally, Haima is trying to finalize a statewide refuge area or shelter dashboard. So across the state, people can see, you know, what is available possibly, what gets open when, what have you. And that's very important for pre-planning as well as in the event of an actual need to utilize those. But it's good for people, businesses to pre-identify the nearest potential refuge areas where we need to go. In fact, really proud of my staff. Yesterday, we resumed what we had in the past. Years ago, we'd have workshops with the visitor industry. So we had invited, yesterday and today, hotel, lodging, management, security staff, and what have you. And we filled the EOC to capacity yesterday with more partners than we expected showing up. And we gave them the Emergency Management 101 and a hurricane season briefing. And we also asked them to partner with us to plan accordingly, shelter in place at their facilities if appropriate. If they do intend to evacuate in large numbers, verify that that refuge area is open and let us know first. Because it's nothing like a hotel sending 700 people to a certain facility and we aren't ready for it. So we resumed that coordination that we hadn't done for a few years. And so that was a good event yesterday, and I anticipate another good event today. And we actually invite them to the Emergency Operations Center for that. So it was really good to see all of those partners out there. Let's see. So that concludes our presentation for now, but I can imagine you'd have a lot of questions, and we are here to answer those for you.
Thank you very much, and I want to acknowledge at least in Kilauea, you were there last weekend, and I know you've been doing things around the island. Members, who has questions? Councilmember Kaneshiro?
I'm glad you brought up the hotel thing right at the end, because I actually had a question on it. I'm just trying to think, like, I mean, we haven't had a hurricane or hurricane scare in a while, but I mean, if we did, how many hotels are able to shelter in place versus, you know, maybe possibly inundating all our shelters? Do we have like a good idea on which ones say they can handle keeping people there during like a hurricane, or if not, they have to evacuate?
So that's a question that I actually posed to our partners yesterday, because they said it's been more than a generation since the last hurricane. Very few who are currently working now were working back then. I mean, you guys know my history. I came in the year after Iniki to run a recovery grant. And so, but yeah, so within the industry, a lot of turnover, and you know, so we asked them, you know, if you are in a building of modern or hardened construction, and in many cases it's concrete, steel reinforced, if you are outside of area prone to storm surge, and people say, how do I know that? How will I tell? Well, National Weather Service in our hurricane season briefing this year told us that they're going to provide updated products on storm surge modeling. And there are tools that you can do now to do hypotheticals, but with each particular storm, they will provide emergency management and the public with some modeling information that helps us drive evacuation information. So, you know, if they are not prone to that inundation from storm surge flooding, they may be appropriate. We gave examples of like the Sheraton in Poipu that would not have been appropriate. But something like the Hyatt is quite well outside of where the surge would go. So I asked them to do their own assessments, and from Kima's end, we are willing to work with them individually to map out, you know, storm surge. We'd even do tsunami, which we did in the past with them, so they can at least better determine that part. We are not engineers, so we don't do like the structural assessment on our part. BARA would probably not be the best fit for those facilities, but you know, once we execute that cooperative purchasing agreement and get part of that thing with city and county, and we get sufficient funding, I don't see why we couldn't work with our attorneys and develop some kind of way where a private partner can collaborate. But yeah, I'd have to pose that question later on the legal side.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. I mean, I'm thinking like the whole South Shore, but yeah, Hyatt, I can understand it's kind of higher and back, but yeah, I mean, we haven't had a hurricane in a long time, but I mean, it's almost inevitable we'll get a scare or something, and just want to be sure that we don't have everybody like flocking to the same shelter and just inundating the shelter or what, or at least if that's going to happen, then we have some type of plan, like knowing that we're going to get a lot of people from all of these certain hotels are going to come here, then we're like ready for it. Because I mean, ultimately, we want to shelter our own residents also that live along the coastline too. So
you know, we even had a discussion, Councilmember Kaneshiro, we even had a discussion with them yesterday in the question and answer session about how back then it was the Westin, but how they had evacuated people to their ballroom, which is in that depression area where kind of protected, and they had ridden out the storm there. Or how some hotels will use the central concrete hallways, and people have access to the restrooms, but they shelter within the hallways, which is a really solid portion of the building. So, you know, some eyes were open, and you see some of the old timers were nodding in agreement. So hopefully, you know, we'll get good results from yesterday and today's meetings and push forward. We'll continue to push forward and try to make improvements in that area, because that is a significant concern to us with, you know, 30,000 plus visitors on island every day. The question even came up about how fast can they leave the island. And, you know, we haven't done a study on it, but in previously working with Sukanoho on it, we know maybe maximum of 10,000 were able to leave prior to onset of more recent tropical cyclone threats. And then it's great for traffic. Traffic goes away for a little while, but that's nowhere near the full 30,000 plus that may be here on any day. So.
Thanks.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah, Councilmember Holland and then Chair Raposo.
Just wondering, are you also having discussions about maybe how hotels could fill the gap for each other? Because like in the case of like a tsunami, right, not all the hotels are going to be in the inundation area. Are you guys having conversations maybe about how the tourism industry could support each other through, okay, in a tsunami, all of you guys take all the people that are in the tsunami area, or like we can house twice as many people in the Hyatt that we could take. I'm just wondering if there's like those collaborative conversations, because it would be ideal that the tourism industry take care of itself and our residents be prioritized.
So, Kima does a lot of things, and we have a lot of contacts, but we're not like the central coordination entity for that discussion. That being said, we work very closely with the Kauaʻi Visitors Bureau and the industry, and we would encourage them to, within their own coalition, work on coordination of that type of thing. In a tsunami scenario, Councilmember Holland, the immediate priority is to get people out of harm's way. So get them up and out of the area, they'll survive. And then in the hours and days that follow, that's where we'll try to coordinate with how we will lodge people, evacuate people. And that type of thing has taken place many times on a smaller scale with our North Shore flooding, in a larger scale with Lahaina, and in the recent Kona low storm statewide. So emergency management is versed in that post-incident coordination, but pre-coordination, I would lean more on our specific subject matter partners on that. So.
Thank you.
Chair Raposo, then.
And thanks for the presentation. I'm kind of interested in this Everbridge test that was done yesterday, and you said you're still getting the results. When do you expect the results, and how do you determine if it worked or not?
Okay, so
and the reason I ask that is because right now on social media, on your post about the test, there's a lot of comments from people that did not receive any alert, whether on their phone or landline. Mm-hmm. So how does Everbridge determine whether it was successful or not?
So, we have dedicated staff that had worked on that particular procurement and the implementation and the transition. They have direct contact with key people at Everbridge. So we'll be looking on our access on the dashboard, seeing what information we have, working with the vendor. We can see delivery reports. We can see the failures, and it'll take a while, but again, we just had the test at 5:30 p.m. yesterday. I need to see a little bit better amount of information on what exactly we compiled, but it'll take a while, but hopefully by some point next week, we'll have determined successes, failures, limitations. I'll tell you on my end, my landline at home is unlisted, and it did not go off, so we'll check there. One of my Verizon phones went off, but it's registered on the old account. My other one wasn't. So maybe they don't mine Verizon data so well. I know that, we've had some people where they said they didn't get the call, and we looked them up, and they had their old data. So that resident connection is a feature that is new to us. Again, I think all the other counties, except for Maui, use Everbridge right now. But yeah, it's a learning experience. But I think Council Chair Raposo, your point is an excellent reminder that people should take that personal responsibility and opt into the system and sign up for alerts. If you didn't get it, you will get it if you opt in.
So it requires the phone owner to opt in?
Yeah, so there's an opt-in feature that ensures you can input your landline, cell, email, text message. The Resident Connect is an attempt to capture via data mining whatever information can, but it's not like our wireless emergency alert that goes to every cell phone within range of the tower. That's our federal tool, yeah. But this is our local system, and it attempts to, but it's not every single phone automatically. Because quite frankly, if you had your unlisted number like me, you kind of get curious as to how someone got your number when the telemarketer calls you, right? So similarly, Everbridge does try to leverage some of those lists. I don't know exactly how it works, But again, we did go to 55,000 contacts.
Does our contract with them guarantee a certain success rate, a percentage, that that they got to meet?
I don't believe there is a success rate stated specifically in that, but I will tell you again that our initial contact lists were around 77,000 before the test. I think approximately 55,000 transmissions occurred successfully during the test. So there are many duplicate or bad numbers didn't get through. And that is significantly more than under our old vendor where our peak lists were around 25,000.
Councilmember Kaneshiro has a follow-up, and then I have a follow-up.
Yeah, mine, I actually didn't get the message yesterday. So how do I get it? Or how do I opt in or?
So you can go to our county website and there will be a clickable portal with that little icon that we showed on the screen. Another way is for those who don't have web access or not smartphone savvy, they can call our office and then staff will help them register.
So I have a follow-up on that. If I went to Kauaʻi.gov, which is our website, how do we find it right there? Is it you go to KEMA?
You should be able to find it at KEMA. Let me look on my
Because it's not on the
cell phone.
front page.
It should be under notification services.
So I would search on notification service?
So on our homepage, there's a block specifically for notification services. You can click on it and it brings you information about Everbridge. And then
On the KEMA homepage or the Kauaʻi.gov homepage?
oh no, sorry, our KEMA homepage.
Yes, okay. So I'm just trying to make it clear, because people are watching, and that's one of the reasons I did this. I'm really appreciating this, so, all right, I need to look up KEMA under government.
Yes, so if you go to kauaʻi.gov/KEMA,
Okay.
that's our landing homepage. There is opening box that says notification services. You navigate there and it'll bring you to the opening page of Everbridge, a clickable link with some information about Everbridge and its services.
Okay, so I found that, and then how can I tell if I got the call? I was in a room where a bunch of phones went off at the same time. So I don't see a recent, or I don't see a little bubble like a message. How do you tell if you got the call?
It should come in either as a missed phone call, a text message, or an email, depending how you sign up. And if you sign up through the member portal, then you'll be able to make those preferences. Like, I want to receive a text message before I receive a phone call, or I want to receive an email versus a landline, call, because
Okay.
sometimes they don't want a landline phone call when when it's nighttime and it could be something,
Right, okay. So I see where to do it, and I'll make a posting on that. I didn't get mine.
It should have come from a 241-1800. It's the same for everybody, right?
That's the phone call. I believe that the text message is, the text message is a 5-digit.
Yeah. 89361.
89361. And then you can save that as a contact in your phone so that your phone doesn't recognize it as spam. And then if you save it as a contact, you'll know it's an official message coming from our office or the county.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see I did get a text. 89361.
Yeah, those look like spam because I get a lot of those.
Yeah, it looks like spam, but yes, I'll make sure I get a phone call. Okay, Councilmember Bulasan?
Yeah, mahalo for the presentation. Thank you so much for all the work that you guys do. Just to follow up on that, I just signed up, took 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. You got to confirm your email, then confirm your phone. Very smooth, very easy. Glad that we have a new vendor. I'm assuming as you guys are going through your callbacks and figuring out this process we just saw, there's going to be quite a few people that might need that help. And you just mentioned phone call. Is there we still have lots of people who like face-to-face. Is that a possibility? And I have another new question to that.
So face-to-face is possible. I mean, if they come in, they buzz in. We do help people over the counter. It's not a high traffic thing. When we do outreach, in fact, I have a request from a local organization to do outreach, and very limited staffing available that day because it's on a weekend. But I will do it, but I'm telling I need at least one staff because they need to be on that computer to register people, and while I'm talking or fielding questions, they got to be able to take people on the side. So we'll do that as well during outreach, face-to-face, help people register. What I did want to say, which we did not mention, was that all of those who opted in under our legacy system that went back all the way to 2008, that database was owned by the county. So that was transferred into the new system. So anyone on the legacy system should have automatically been migrated over to the new system if they opted in over the past several decades or several years.
New question.
Is it a follow-up on what we're on? A new question relative to that, or a brand new question?
New question.
And then,
that was my initial question. I just followed up on.
Okay, so, and Kipukai, is yours a follow-up?
New question.
Yours a new. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I love the coalition of the willing. That's definitely going to stick. My question is, how do I get part of that, since I am technically a council staff?
So that's a question I'll pose to county attorney and see what we can do about that.
Thank you.
All right, Vice Chair Kauaʻi.
Yeah, so on page 7, the top slide, number 13, you list all these BARAs, best available refuge areas. So I get that you're not calling them shelters because they don't meet these category standard criteria. But there's 19 of them listed. A couple of them have, a lot of them have asterisks. What does the asterisk refer to?
Yeah, good question, Council Member. And as I had that slide on the screen, I realized, we didn't have the explanation for the asterisk. So if you look on our website, what the asterisk is BARA plus.
BARA plus.
So that means either BARA standard or another standard or a higher standard. The reason why is we have specific facilities. As I said, we've been kind of quietly but effectively making improvements over the years. So we have select facilities at certain campuses that have been hardened. Council supported us on things such as the Kalaheo Neighborhood Center Type A shelter, Cat 2 Hurricane retrofit. Council has supported us on the soon-to-be reopened Kilauea Neighborhood Center, EHPA, Enhanced Hurricane Protection Area retrofit. We partnered and supported their planning at the Kauaʻi High School gym. When it was being planned and constructed, that's EHPA standard. So those are higher than BARA, although they have BARA facilities on campus as well. And then more facilities are coming up for retrofits in the future. Future gyms at Waimea, and then later at Kauaʻi will be to a higher standard from the ground up, not something that has to be retrofitted after. And we are working on a long-term project for Kauaʻi War Memorial Convention Hall. I know they have other renovations, but leveraging on those renovations, we want to do hardening as well. So that's what the asterisk stands for, Council Member.
Now, you have this shelter criteria, Type B, Type A, Cat 1, Cat 2, Enhanced, Cat 3, and then Essential, Cat 4. Will any of these come to that level? And what about the brand new Kauai High School gym that you talked about?
Yeah, so sorry if I wasn't clear. Kauai High School gym is EHPA, Enhanced Hurricane Protection Area.
So Cat 3?
Yeah.
So
something like Kilauea Neighborhood.
BARA plus means it's more than BARA, and it is.
There are some BARA, it designates BARA as the minimum standard, and some on that particular location or campus may be a higher standard.
But not Cat 1, Cat 2.
So higher standard, no, by higher standard I mean, so like for Kalaheo, excuse me, Kalaheo, I mentioned that the county hardened that to Cat 2, right? So that's a Type A shelter. But it's still BARA asterisk for BARA Plus.
All right. Are there any others? Kauaʻi High School Cat 3, Kalaheo Neighborhood Center Cat 2. Are there others?
Kilauea Gym met an old standard, and it is being renovated, and it should be reopened this summer. And that is the design specs that we had tried to fund it for is Cat 3. There are individual buildings or classrooms at various DOE campuses, but those are much smaller facilities. We don't have a lot. I just highlighted the big ones where we try to emphasize more bang for the buck because we can house more people there. The other facilities are much smaller.
And then the last thing on these facilities, you made a comment that we're working with potential private partners, right? And I'm assuming that means to have more facilities. If a private partner gets involved and they're opening a BARA or a BARA Plus to the public, how is insurance and liability addressed? Is there already a state law in place that if a private facility is open to the public during an emergency, that liability is waived and released?
So I have to, I will answer as a layperson, non-attorney. I defer to county attorney on this, but there's 127A20. I believe the section is entitled Immunity from Liability for Private Shelter. But in order to be that, we need to recognize them as that. So I have told staff that one of their projects for next fiscal year will be working on developing an attorney-approved MOU template in which we can get these private facilities on board. It's a win-win situation. If people can be housed outside of the county refuge areas, if the hotels can house people, that would be awesome because it gives them that carrot for why they may want to shelter in place more than if they have that added protection on their end.
Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Carvalho?
Yeah, just a quick question on the refuge areas. So you work on the facility hardening of the facilities. So where are we at with that? Because apparently the funding was limited or something.
Yeah, so there has been retrofit funding over the years that the state has been able to get through the legislature, but it was always limited to about $3 million a year, not much. And then this upcoming fiscal year, what's on the governor's desk, if he hasn't signed already, is a significant increase to that. But on the county's end, we've come to council before for hazard mitigation grant program funding. We've had hardening under the CIP budget in the past. The state legislature has done specific appropriations in the past too. So we've tried our very best, and we've made some progress in the significant facilities I just mentioned to you folks. However, as a former Haima administrator said, it's very difficult to retrofit yourself out of the problem because, as we pointed out, like most of these facilities, other than the very new construction, like the Kauaʻi High School gym, were not originally designed or built to serve as a shelter or refuge area. So we're taking the best available facilities, assessing them, and if they meet a minimum safety standard, we put the BARA stamp on them, or we're able to get them stamped for Type A, Type B, Type A, EHP, EF Coop shelters, right? So yeah, so there is a significant funding gap, but I don't want anyone to be put too much at ease. But another reality, things that have changed significantly since Iniki. Again, the building codes have been improved. So newer construction, they're a lot better off than the older plantation homes, single wall construction. Most of the stuff that got destroyed in Iwa and Iniki, in the older camps, some that are no longer around. I did have staff try to work with planning and GIS to do an assessment of how many remaining older homes, single wall construction exists, like mine, 60-year-old home. on island. And concentrations may be in certain camp areas, but we have entire new subdivisions that are all double wall construction, much better hardening. Definitely not the type of homes that we survived in the prior hurricanes. So community as a whole is a lot better off now than we were 34 years ago. But still, we'll continue to work on these facilities and continue to strive for hardening and better facilities and private facilities as available, because I tell our staff, like the Nike model before, there's no finish line, and continuous improvement, keep going. So.
Sure. I have a follow-up.
Okay, Council Chair.
Thank you.
Bozo?
Thank you. So I see there's 3 facilities that are pending retrofits or reopening. What, I don't know if you know this, but what is the capacity of the combined facility, all of these facilities currently, and what is the capacity after all the retrofits are completed?
So I'm going to just ballpark. It's not going to be exact. Sarah may have the numbers with her, but if we were to go with total capacity island-wide, non-BARA and BARA, it'll be upwards of 16,000. If we were to go BARA, it'll be in the 8,000 range, BARA plus.
And that is, that's all the facilities after completion?
Yeah.
Okay, and currently, I mean, you only have 3, Kilauea Convention Hall and the college. But that's big facilities, right? Like KCC during Iniki housed over 2,000 people. So what, if we had a hurricane right now, what would the capacity be, do you know, without using?
Sarah, do you have our list? Do you have our list before completion of the other facilities?
Like right now, what is the current capacity with the available facilities that we have?
Push your button.
Sorry, just over 6,000.
Over 6,000.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have follow-up on that too, because thank you for that question. I was going to ask that. So if we have an estimated 75,000 people in our population, and I'm including those part-time residents who are here a lot, right? Because those aren't typically counted in the visitor numbers. Plus 30,000, we're at 105,000. So that means we've got like maybe 5% covered in any of these shelters. So when I look at that, it's really important for people as a takeaway in this discussion is that they need to figure out, you know, their own plan. A neighborhood house that has really strong construction. I know my 75-year-old wooden house made it through 3 hurricanes without even losing a roof. I've replaced that roof, but looks like it flexed. But what do we're 5% is a small amount. What do you recommend for those others? So that's 95% of the population.
So, Councilmember Cowden, it's just like the press conference at the governor's office where I'm the old guy, so they give me the hardest talking point. So one of my talking points was, yes, refuge or shelter area capacity is very limited statewide. So while on Kauaʻi, we have our BARA facilities, statewide it's not BARA, so I had to speak in more general terms and just say that statewide our refuge areas and shelters should be considered as refuges of last resort. Again, if you don't have access to a home of modern construction, hardened construction to code, or otherwise retrofitted for high wind, and outside of a storm surge or area prone to flooding. We recommended in that press conference that people work with their friends, family, neighbors, if any of them have hardened homes or homes that meet better criteria. Places of business, because sometimes private facilities are constructed well enough or have safe internal rooms, and those would be primary recommendations. I also did point out that at the various refuge areas or shelters, space is limited and not much services, if anything, will be provided. At best, they try to provide access to restrooms. And the reality is they may be at 10 square feet per person, standard rating. Contingency staffing, we can increase to maybe 7 square feet per person, but you try to measure out 7 square feet or 10 square feet per person. It's not very much space per person, and that's what the capacities are rated on across the state. So yeah, the other options would be to look at friends, families, neighbors, private facilities that are at least constructed or hardened.
And
Well, constructed or hardened.
would it be, I'm riffing here, but good to have maybe a laminated piece in your kitchen where you're telling your family, if there's a fire, go here. If there's a flood or a hurricane, go here. Because, you know, each one represents a different type of place, so that if people made agreements with their friends and families ahead of time, I know my place tends to be a little camping facility during, you have a big slumber party at my place when there's a tsunami warning. People know they can come to my house because I'm up high. Are we encouraging and training the community to work through that? We have a lot of newer population that doesn't have the experience that the generational population has. Okay,
so your question or comment hits on 2 points. I'll try my best to remember. When we do our outreach and the material that we have available online as well, we tend to focus on 3 general areas of advice related to what you said. We say that everyone should have a plan. Your family plan, what you're going to do under what scenarios. That includes whether or not we shelter in place or evacuate, and that's for various threats. And you don't have to evacuate if you're not in a tsunami zone and there's a tsunami warning, for example. Flash flood warnings don't affect the vast majority of people where they live, but some people do if they live in a certain flood zone, right? But have a plan. They should have a kit, like a disaster supplies kit, that 14-day kit for their homes, and a portable go kit to take with them should they need to evacuate. And then they have to stay informed, make sure multiple means of notification and getting the latest information and updates. So that's part of our outreach materials that we like to provide the public.
Would that portable day kit or evacuation kit include at least a Xerox copy of your homeowner's insurance, etc.?
So in a lot of the things that we, in our outreach material, we would say, you know, food, water, medication, toiletries, if you have baby or pet supplies, some cash, and important documents. What kind of documents? We don't exactly say what. Everybody has different types, but those are things that are included in our materials that we do outreach.
From Aniki, people whose insurance things got blown away, that was a real problem. Sometimes people don't have their insurance number memorized and all of that. So just kind of throwing that one in. Okay, we had Vice Chair Kauaʻi.
Yeah, on the KCC, Kauaʻi Community College, so it says pending retrofits. It has no asterisk, I noticed, so it's not a BARA plus. What is the timeline for the retrofits, and where will they be after the retrofits? Will they have the asterisk? Will be the category 2, 3? Where are they working towards?
Okay, so I'm going to be careful.
Another thing is, where is it now? Where on the campus? Is it the Performing Arts Center? The big...
Okay. So, to my knowledge, various facilities were assessed at KCC. To me, center of attention is the Performing Arts Center because it's so large, and so I cannot speak for the state partner about when they are able to or willing to do stuff, but our BARA reports, these are internal documents. We, on the engineering side, we do have data and notes in some cases that indicate types of hardening or work that would need to be performed to bring it up to code. So like part of the future work in BARA that we hope to do as an agency is to work with facility partners on both the governmental and non-governmental side, if we find, pave that path forward, to assist them with providing the technical data, and from their end, we can advocate or try to assist with locating funding on the governmental side in particular, and working with their contractors and providing this borrowed data to them. So I cannot speak for KCC or DOE or any of the state partners and say, hey, it will be by this time or then. It's really not my position. But we'll do our very best. We do have good relationships with all of our partners, and we'll do our very best to try expedite, because that is a premier facility in my mind that we do want to have brought up.
Okay, so what about the convention hall? Pending retrofit / renovation. You did say long-term, but what does that mean? 2 years, 5 years, how long?
Okay, so I'm not...
Will that get us to what category?
So I'm not Public Works, but I do know that they have planned renovations and re-roofing or some kind of project going on. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, again, I'm not Public Works, with CIP funding. I think it's commencing or going out to bid this summer. We want to piggyback on that and do hardening. We've already been looking at convention hall for a number of years and done some initial work with the hazard mitigation funding. But our focus would be more on that lobby area with the main problem with that place. You notice it already has like impact screens and all, and some of the smaller windows, is all of that glass. So we're going to have to find a solution so at least that central area is safe. The dome is going to be renovated, it's going to be stronger. Other sections are pretty good, but that central lobby area with the glass is going to be our focus, and lesser funding, hopefully. But
and so the goal is to get to what cat?
I would say minimum BARA, and we'll just see what is feasible engineering-wise.
So I didn't understand that. See,
yeah, minimum would be our best available refuge area rating. And then engineering-wise...
Adding the asterisk?
Pardon?
Meaning adding the asterisk, but not one of those 4 criteria, standard criteria?
At a minimum, BARA. So, I'm not Public Works.
It's
I'm
BARA
not sure.
now, right?
It is, right now, it's pending.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, pending retrofits renovation.
And BARA is like 1 or 2?
No. BARA is...
It's just available.
It's best available. It's not Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, Cat 4, yeah. I mean, I will tell you that
So it's on this list, but really it's not on this list, is what you're saying.
It's on this list as a usable facility, and we have it there because we hope to be able to use it. And then that list is not only BARAs, yeah. We can use it for post-disaster shelter purposes if we had a lot of displaced people, things of that nature. We could use it for a wildfire, for example. Okay. So BARA is more specific to tropical cyclone.
So at least BARA. And the last question again on this is, in the northeast, right? So all of this Kilauea and Kaua, but no Hanalei or Princeville. So Hanalei is completely out because it's all in the flood. And then what's the plans then for Princeville? And what's going on with Hanalei Initiative and Resiliency Hub? Is there any work in all of that to include some kind of BARA?
Okay, so for anything beyond Princeville, because it's pretty much all flood zone and prone to being cut off if the river floods, we'll only open a refuge area if the community gets cut off due to flash flood warning. So we do that. We used to do that at Hanalei Elementary School, and more recently at Halehalavai. So we provide that, but those are not intended as hurricane refuge areas. Hurricane refuge areas and potential storm surge, we want everybody up and out. We have been trying in the Princeville area looking for, potential facilities. So far, not much has come up that is very usable, other than if we someday in the future make an arrangement with the private hotels. but at least Kilauea, we have the school and, the neighborhood center.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Follow up. I know Limuhuli has like a structure they recently put up. It's probably not like certified for any storms or anything, but when there's, I think when we had like the tsunami watch, they took a lot of people up there to higher ground. So I don't know if like that's a area we look at, to maybe assist with them, as a safe area for people to get away from the shoreline.
So I apologize, Councilmember Kauaʻi. I did not, Councilmember Kaneshiro's question reminds me that I didn't answer your second part about community partnerships and resiliency hubs. But yeah, along that line, Limahuli did, to our knowledge, take several people who temporarily sought shelter there during the last tsunami warning. And that's great because, if you look at the modeling, that place does have a significant safe area up and out of the zone, even with our worst case scenario with the extreme tsunami. Community partnerships are very welcomed by Kima. And in fact, Limahuli did benefit from some of the post-disaster flooding from the legislative appropriation following our rain 18 or 2018 historic flooding. So they did some work up there, cleaning their, removing debris from the streams and what have you. So it's a known partner, and we'd be open to possible partnership with a resiliency hub or that type of, community refuge area type of arrangement if they were willing. There are various groups out there on the North Shore that we've worked with and we have partnerships with, and as if they are wanting to develop that capability, our state partners at Haima are actually trying to develop a statewide resiliency hub project and have at least some standards or central coordination from there. On the county of Kauaʻi's end, again, we look at best practices and we always try to improve. We have been studying this vibrant Hawaii model that they do on the Big Island with very successful community-led, community-run resiliency hubs. So in fact, just in the past 2 weeks, I sent one of our staff and Alan Clinton, I believe, from planning to a Hawaii County resiliency hub, Vibrant Hawaii event. So we're trying to look at their success and see if we can replicate it here in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, we're very interested in such partnerships.
Okay, Councilmember Carvalho?
Yeah, you mentioned partnerships. So with the hotel industry, like you mentioned that earlier. And so how often you folks pull everybody together, quarterly or?
So, we used to do that every year.
Every year.
And then we used to. And then in the COVID pandemic, that stopped. And we talked about starting it up again. And finally this year, we got the group together. It was a good time because our beloved Sukanoho pillar of strength and leadership with the visitor industry retired and said, hey, you know what? Without Sue at the helm, we're gonna, Samira's great, but we're gonna re-establish and strengthen our ties with the industry. So we decided to try to start up again. And like I said yesterday, full house. And we have another one at 10:30 today. But if we're not out of here by then, I told the staff there that they're gonna have to run it. So.
And last one. And then we have a solid relationship with Niihau, right? Mm-hmm. The relationship there is still solid. I just want to clarify that.
Yes, so we have a good contact and coordination. I remember during your term as mayor, we had started to establish that. Yeah. So, in things such as the use of the military landing craft in response to 2018 floods was there. Our multi-year project, but finally getting a satellite-activated outdoor warning siren on Niihau was another project we have there. So they actually participate in the monthly testing, and we're able to get the messages out to them by siren at least. So we do have regular coordination with, the ownership.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Holland, and then Cheryl.
I have some questions around shelters. So I'm wondering, does Haima or Kima, are you aware of any outlook on what kind of FEMA resources might be available for construction in the future for things like that? Are we aware of any kind of funding currently that's possible for us to tap into?
So FEMA funding already was somewhat limited to what we could tap. There are mitigation grant program funds, there's BRIC funding, things of that nature. But with the recent flux in the state and the shape of FEMA and FEMA funding, a lot of that has been more questionable. Now we're starting to get a little bit more clarity with the release of the recent recommendations and charting the future of FEMA. They're going into a phased revamping of the agency. So right now it's difficult to speak definitively on what's available, but even prior to that, it was very limited what we could get. So while it's possible to pursue funding, it's not something that's high percentage success. I think our better success has been with legislative funds, some mitigation program fund, hazard mitigation grant program funds on the FEMA side, but combination of that and county and CIP. So it has to be like a mix, just like our mass notification systems is a mix, a layered approach. Usually no silver bullet on the federal side.
So my follow-up on funding is, what is the funding you're getting to do the retrofits that you're doing? Is it just county funds, or is there state or federal funds?
So historically, Haima has had a legislative appropriation. Historically, Kima has occasionally sought federal grant funding to support. On occasion, it's been county funds or CIP funding. So it's been a mix in the past.
And wouldn't construction of a new shelter, say, right, that can meet these higher standards like Cat 3 and like Kauaʻi High School gym, right? Mm-hmm. So when they built Kauaʻi High School gym, the state had to use all gym funding, or did they get some funding because it was also going to serve as a Cat 3 shelter?
So I can't speak for DOE, and my involvement with the project was limited and to very specific areas such as a wastewater management, because when used as a shelter, Kauaʻi High School doesn't have a sewer line over there, so it's a septic system, septic tank. So we had to come up with a strategy to empty those tanks prior to putting all those people in there, and maybe not letting people take showers for the initial period when you're just surviving the storm, just to reduce the water, the wastewater demand in there. So I really don't know a lot of the backside to that. But what I do know is, again, I'd have to defer to attorneys on the exact section of law, but newer construction of large facilities in Hawaii, they now have to be built to serve as a hurricane shelter for governmental facilities. So the Kauaʻi High School gym had to be built to that standard, and the future Waimea and then later Kapa'a will be built to that standard. So those, from the ground up, from day one, will be BARA plus. Unlike our older facilities that we have to look at, assess, or retrofit to harden. Yeah.
And along those lines, if you're talking about government facilities, what about our facilities here? We just did this whole end over here. Was any Kima needs built into that in any way?
So for some of our facilities where we've given input on, something like Limaola, I believe they've yet to build out their community center in the middle, but KEMA's input into the process is that that be designed to serve as a community refuge area. So it's not a huge facility, but it'll provide some space there. And Limaola being most modern construction and code, people, I mean, they of all places can shelter in place, but they can also take overflow from the neighboring communities if the refuge area at the elementary school is over capacity. For this particular facility, we did not BARA assess, but being modern construction, you know, it's built to code. And thank you for that suggestion, staff. Write it down. That'll be on our next list for BARA assessment.
Along those lines, when you build a building and you put a lot of glass, because glass is, that's the light in and all of that, is there a way to do the glass at a higher standard? And it must be super costly.
There are all kinds of different technologies available. There's this UHC grant publishes this very popular homeowner's guide that provides information on hardening. But glass can be laminated. You can put impact screens like a cage covering over it, or even like Batman armor. You press the button. Actually, you just pull down the blinds and anchor it in place. And there's all kinds of different technologies. So a good example, you know, we did get interest from a private partner, Philippine Cultural Center, in getting their facility assessed. And their facility did quite well on the BARA assessment, except for the glass. So if we can work on that private arrangement somehow, develop that MOU, and if they just do a little bit of hardening, that's going to be another premier facility.
That little bit of hardening could be like shutters or something, like you were saying.
Yeah, laminates, pull-down shutters.
And that shouldn't be super expensive, right?
Yeah, so I'm not a construction specialist, but that'll be a lot cheaper than actual structural retrofits to the building.
Well, I know you keep saying I'm not this and I'm not that, but I would hope that you play a role in supporting and encouraging and moving the possibilities of additional BARAs across the island.
Yes, I mean, in a facility like that, for sure. Again, they were interested, and we included them in the assessments, and we'd be willing to work with them, especially if they're willing to be a private partner.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I just have a follow-up on that. When you're talking about Batman hardening, those roll-up, like garage door kind of things, seems to me, is that something that has been considered, for example, in the War Memorial Convention Hall for that center area? It seems to me it's going to cost some money, but let's face it, everything costs some money. But just to have those, and you know, you can have like 3 or 4 of them, so it's not all one piece.
So that's a consideration. I would defer to our design. We'll eventually get to a design consultant contract, more likely than not, and then have them come up with viable options with different cost estimates for us to plan.
Okay, was there somebody else with a question? Okay.
This is my last question, and I only keep bringing it up, like tsunami, fires, flooding. It affects like just a portion of the island, but a hurricane affects the entire island. And every now and then I get like this heart-sinking feeling like, oh my God, am I prepared? Is quite prepared. So, I mean, how prepared are we? You know, I mean, you mentioned it's been generations since we've had a hurricane. So people that are in certain areas that could help or have been hit hard, they might not necessarily know, you know, what to do. So, I mean, how prepared are we as a county for a hurricane? And is there anything like we're trying to do more that'll get us more prepared? Is there more like advanced technology on, oh, this is what we do for hurricane hits, then this is what we do? Like we'll lean way more on like PMRF or I don't know, just things like that kind of is like, yeah, every now and then I get this like heart sinking feeling like, oh my God, if we get hit, you know, it's going to be kind of chaotic.
So Councilmember Kaneshiro, that's a very complex and difficult question to answer, but I'll do my very best. Because, you know, you'll be helping prepare me for my Star Advertiser interview this afternoon about lessons learned from Iniki and how are we better prepared today, which I haven't had time to prepare for yet. Anyway, how prepared are we? Are we ready? I would say the best way to look at that is, again, starting individually. Am I? Is my family? Do I have my 14-day kid? Do I have at least awareness of the threats, vulnerabilities? Do I have a plan? Will I stay informed? Will I get that information? If you can check those boxes, great. On the government's end, we have much improved coordination at all levels, be it from the federal government, FEMA, to the state, the county, and then our network on island. I mean, too bad you guys haven't been able to all be with us in a large activation. How we so quickly coordinate with the various partners and usually are able to get whatever needs taken care of right away. Now, in the case of a catastrophic hurricane or tsunami, there are huge challenges, and this is why the personal and family preparedness comes into play. You know, the communication systems, power grid, water systems, and wastewater, primarily underground, but even those could be compromised. So individual and family resiliency come in huge for that. The more we have to take care of every need under the sun, the harder it is for us. Again, we have great coordination within the county, state, with our federal partners. Assets, as long as our port facilities are working, we'll be able to come in from all over. You know, we've had huge deployments and responses to things like Lahaina, for example, 2018 floods here. But what really would concern me, you know, people ask me what keeps me up at night. I say nothing. I sleep like a baby every night. I don't get anxiety. My phone wakes me up every night or often at any old hour with the high surf warning, cancellation, whatever. That's our life. But the ones that really concern me are a hurricane scenario that takes out Honolulu Harbor. Because of the hub and spoke concept, most things coming in by freight, by ship. The air bridge of flying everything by air, it's very difficult to do something like that. And you think about fuel for those aircraft and things like that. Another scenario is a destructive tsunami that takes out our various port facilities where most of that maritime commerce comes in. Those will make us hard pressed. There have been some discussions and planning on things of that nature. And these are leveraging capabilities way beyond what all of us in the general public would tend to envision. But if you remember the first Gulf War, Mel, you would know this well, they built ports right on the desert beach, the sand beach right there, a company called Crawley. I mean, there's capabilities like that. It just takes time for those to ship out, and they don't pre-deploy them here. But those are the scenarios that concern me more. And that is why in both of those scenarios with limited supply chain due to severe supply chain interruption, having those kits being prepared at the family and household level is so utterly important. And if you are good at home, let us worry about the rest. We'll establish and reestablish as fast as we can. Comm systems, you talked about leveraging technology. Internet and power may go down. KEMA and public safety, we have multiple means of voice and data communication, various deployable technologies, portable repeaters, satellite packages, what have you. So we are really at the cutting edge of technology as a county on the communications and information side. But what really matters is the people and starting at that individual household level. Yeah.
Thank you. And I actually have a few questions too, and I want to be conscious of our public and that these guys are trying to get out. Chair.
It was just really a follow-up on what you just shared regarding you wish we had the opportunity to sit in there during the, and I did during the tsunami. And I was super impressed with exactly how you described it. It was exactly as you described it. The communication, collaboration was phenomenal. We did have a constituent question regarding DLNR being an EOC, and I honestly couldn't remember if they were there or not. So is DLNR part of the EOC during an activation?
Yes, Department of Land and Natural Resources is on our contact list, and I don't remember whether or not they showed up in person. I know that they were involved in the notification and evacuation of state park facilities.
Okay, but they
have a seat. They have a seat in the EOC.
That was the question. Thank you so much.
I really want to ask a couple questions too.
Just following up on that, what agencies are required to be there when you guys activate?
So that will depend on the type of emergency or level of activation. But if we all hands on deck, full activation, then we're activating all partners, all emergency support functions. We would expect to have representatives or contact from virtually all state and county agencies and departments on island, especially those pre-designated. So we have, I don't memorize them because it's too many, but we have extensive contact lists of primary, secondary, tertiary contacts of every partner agency, private, county, state, federal, and some core private sector partners, say like KIUC as an example, who are on our notification list, and we would do our best to activate them. So a common saying in Kima that I try to tell staff to internalize is the answer or the path to the answer is in the room. And that's that team approach by having everybody there. And if we don't know it, we'll know who knows it, and we'll get that answer or that solution.
So I have a question. In your meeting today, are vacation rentals included? Because there's really a pretty significant amount of our visitor industry are in individual units in different places. And I especially think like for North Shore, where we don't have any support really to speak of. How are they being taught? I know they've got a little list on the wall in there. Is there a plan for that community?
Well, fortunately, I have Patrick Gallagher sitting next to me, and he was just asked this yesterday.
Yeah, I was just talking with Samira about this yesterday, and she has not just the meeting today and yesterday, but we've got a couple others planned. And what we're looking at, and this is like an ongoing thing. It's not just a one-off year. We want to do this annually, but we're going to do a virtual one, and we're going to try to record it. So these, a lot of the smaller rental places can actually view that, and they know all that. They will know all that information.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then, was Kima in place during Iniki, or did it begin after that?
At the time of Iniki, Kima was Kauaʻi Civil Defense Agency, located in the basement of this building here.
So we had something there. And a reason I'm asking that is that I'm getting a lot of questions from people that I would say are relatively new to the island, and that might mean 10 to 20 years. There was so much that we learned during Iniki. Could we do, or are we thinking about doing a video of self-preservation? Like, I know people who made it when their whole house came down. They were in their car, in their garage, with a mattress on top of their car. The whole house came down. The thing was over. They were able to push a few things off the car, and they got out, and they were fine. And the mattress on top is a big deal. So when something falls on it, it doesn't just crush the car. I mean, there's so many strategies that people had. There was just countless strategies. Because when we want people to be on their own, how are we training people to be on their own? Like boarding up the house. Are we considering that? Because being dependent on the government, I think, is comfortable to this community, but we need to teach them how to not be.
Okay, so that's a good point, Councilmember Cowden. In our outreach, we basically touch on sheltering in places, but we don't go into that level of detail. And in that homeowner's guide from the Sea Grant, it does go into hardening and sheltering in place to a certain extent, but it's something we can take a look at to how we can improve our outreach materials.
Because I worry about that with the longer generations that went through it, a lot of people were born since then, not knowing. Kev, what about category 4 and 5?
So again, Hawaii, the HAIMA criteria doesn't address category 5. But EF Coop is on that list, but there are no such facilities on this island with that official rating. There may be a few throughout the state, but as a percentage, I don't think there's even one in every county.
Yeah, so I think all those little techniques actually really matter.
Yeah.
Now, the small one is leave your animals in your truck, in your garage with boards up around it, and the windows a little cracked so they can breathe.
I mean, speaking of like knowledge from the older generations or community-based gems of information that maybe new people would never have had access to. When I was a kid, we knew where the bunkers were around Lihui, like right by the gym, and we would go play inside and all like that. But there are historic buildings that were used or designated in the distant past, Cold War era, as fallout shelters, for example. So that is something that another future KEMA project can be, to look at these older facilities and see which are still available or viable and try to revamp those. You guys know you have a basement here. The annex has a basement. Fire department has a basement, completely underground. So those are another future project that we could look at. It's just that those may pose challenges in other areas like sanitation and ventilation and things of that nature. But always more to do. After BARA or future BARA, we'll be getting into some of that too, especially with the modern concerns about homeland defense and global instability.
Okay, Councilmember Holland?
My question's kind of in alignment with that. It sounds to me like our long-term plan is to slowly develop these shelter facilities and kind of increase. Would you say that that's correct? Like slowly increase capacity for sheltering? We don't really have like one big plan to build like shelters to really meet the need of the whole island.
Yeah, so it's an accurate way to put it. We'll expand both BARA and plus, or shelter rated facilities as we can. Again, KEMA does not have access to tens of millions of dollars to do those kinds of things, but as our partners build new facilities or as people retrofit, we'll do our best to make sure that things are built in place so they can also serve as public refuge areas.
So during real time, when like whatever kind of emergency comes up, you're saying the best ways to find out. I heard you kind of say social media and news about which shelters are open and activated, and you're looking for a dashboard.
Okay, so HAIMA is working on a statewide dashboard. What KEMA has now is, as we provide that list on our website for planning purposes on the front end, but as we open facilities, they'll populate on our website. It'll show where. Okay. We back that up with social media and PIO information releases to all media. So that's why you can see the TV news is running with what facilities we open and all like that. We ensure that information all gets transmitted at one time.
And that's right on the main KEMA page?
It's on our main KEMA page, county press releases, we'll put them all out together.
And if you're encouraging people to stay home as much as possible, shelter in place kind of thing, it sounds like pretty much everybody should have a plan for, if not their own home, their family that they could go to. Along with what Councilmember Kaua was kind of talking about, is there a guidance of like what the best room in the house is? Or, I mean, like for me, I have an 80-year-old plantation house that is definitely hollow wall construction at this point. But the reality is that I do have a bathroom that's kind of been reconstructed a little bit. If I was going to survive in the middle of the house, everything else could maybe blow away. But my more modern bathroom with tile walls in the shower, it doesn't have windows. I mean, is there that kind of guidance online? Like, hey, stay in your house, but go to the room with the least windows and the solidest, or...
There's some guidance, but I think, your point and her point, brings up that we can do a better job at that, so we can point out more. I mean, there's even some information on building a safe room and things like that, but we'll definitely take another look at it and try to bring it more to the forefront of.
I'm also wondering about the homeless. So do you guys have like specific parts of the emergency plan to respond to the houseless community and people that might not even be getting these alerts, or like where do they go? Do they go to any other shelter like people? And is there any kind of coordination or work with homeless coordinator?
So, we do have a county homeless coordinator, and we invite her to briefings. She is one of the ones who is allowed to participate. She can come to the EOC. Even after recent events, we've had some follow-up meetings. And then, again, KEMA's not the answer to everything, but we do rely on subject matter experts or area-specific partners. And in that area, what we envision is a county homeless coordinator working with a coalition of community-based partners who specifically address that community. They know the clientele. We successfully implemented a model during COVID. If you recall, we were activated for more than 2 years, and we provided homeless communities safe places to camp, shelter. We provided mobile vaccination, mobile testing, sanitation trailers, and what have you. And, using a similar model is what we envision, and we hope that would happen with that particular clientele.
My very last question is just about coordination with the emergency alerts around police actions. I'm wondering if you guys have conversations around that kind of thing. I mean, we obviously just had something.
So, with our close partnership and co-location with Kauaʻi Police Department, very close coordination. In fact, on some of the systems I mentioned, such as the emergency alert system, TV and radio, and the wireless emergency alert system to the cell phones on the federal side, you may have heard of the Miley and Amber alerts. They use the same platform as us. We can work with them. They have certain officers trained with how to operate it, and they leverage the very same systems as we do on that end.
I have a follow-up on that. What is the reason council's denied inclusion in the EOC? Seems like if we were allowed in there, we would make better and more informed decisions, and we are strong connectors to the community. Almost every one of us has quite a big block of people that are comfortable communicating with us.
I would have to think longer on that. For one thing, I know there are issues where if business is being discussed, we shouldn't have too many of you in one place at one time. There's also a separation of powers between executive and legislative branch at times. And, on occasion, we may be able to make exceptions and let, a limited number come by. Like, I don't mind for day-to-day stuff, but when it's a full activation, a lot of stuff going on, it's difficult to have all council members at one time. We need to explore that and see.
Well, I haven't been involved in any one of them as committee chair for public safety, so that's just kind of interesting to me.
I mean, at least in the initial response, it can be difficult. Later on, where when we're coming to you for support and funding, I just think that in the heat of battle and when critical stuff are happening, we have to look at that. I'm not saying outright no, I'm not saying outright yes. We'd have to explore on the legal side.
Yeah, I just want to say that I went in the place of the county clerk, so it wasn't as it's a lot of people in that place. So I just wanted to address that. Yeah. And then the Sunshine Law does it is a direct there's a direct correlation to the Sunshine Law because decisions could definitely be on the agenda, or if issues that would show up on the agenda cannot have more than two council members in there. So, but it is quite packed, and there are a lot of activities. So,
yeah, I see like Chamber of Commerce, all kinds of regular people are in there. So it just seems like decision makers would really be of value. Do we have any more critical questions? These guys have to be somewhere at 10:30. I wondered if, I don't know if they want to hear community input or not. Is everybody fine with our questions so far?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Now we'll stick around. Our staff can handle the,
Okay,
as long as there's
good.
community concerns, if just in case we have to answer
So
one.
I would like to, ask for testimony. And, so you guys could sit back for a little bit.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone signed up? Mr. Psychos?
For the record, Lonnie Psychos. I have a number of questions that I'll pose that I would like for the council to address to these people afterwards. The very first question that I have is, given that our shelter capacity is 6,000 people in shelters that are not designed to deal with anything stronger than a Category 2 or perhaps a Category 3 hurricane, what is the estimation of human death, of serious injury, and the number of buildings that will be either destroyed or incapacitated if we're hit by a Category 3, Category 4, Category 5 hurricane? I have experienced Category 3, 4, and 5 hurricanes. I was a merchant seaman, and I lived in the Central Pacific during middle and high school. I've seen a building the size of one of our major resorts have the entire roof lifted off of it and deposited on top of the swimming pool intact, the Hilton on Guam. I've helped communities clean up after hurricanes, and what we did was the homeowner knew how many sheets of corrugated steel was in their house, and so we would go out and gather that number of sheets, bring them back, straighten them out, and they would rebuild their houses. The houses, the only houses that were hurricane-proof, were the bunkers left by the Japanese prior to World War II. Category 5 building is almost impossible to build without a concrete roof. And so, once again, the question is, what is the estimate of the damage we should expect to have? And we, the public, need to know this, right? I have medical training. I was the response to disaster officer where I worked. I understand what it takes to recover from catastrophic events. Most of the public doesn't. So the next question is, if the hurricane's approaching, at what point do we quit bringing tourists into Hawaii? They told us, oh, we can evacuate 10,000 people. That's crazy. If a Category 4 or 5 hurricane is 10 days from Hawaii, it's 7 days from Hawaii. Why are our airplanes full of tourists coming in? I'll be back.
Okay, Mr. Hart?
For the record, Bruce Hart. My first question is for the council is that since everything I've heard for the last year is that most of the federal funding has already dried up or is going to dry up, has the council considered how much are we willing to continue to fund these kind of activities? Because it looks like that it's going to weigh on us. Are we going to keep this system going? There are new systems being proposed, new models, where when a disaster happens, there are companies where experts are able to come in and handle the situation, you contract with them, and they do the kind of work that Kima is doing now. And as far as sheltering, I've always proposed for 2 decades that the safest shelter, the most critical period for shelter is during the actual storm. Preparations for taking care of people. If it's a category 3, some of them, duration. If it's 4 or 5, underground. And what I'm proposing is, what I've always proposed is not something that's going to be long term. It's just shelter during the actual storm. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Oakman?
Elena Oakman, thank you very much for paying attention, not after but before. We have this season coming in. And I have a couple of questions. I didn't receive text message. I didn't receive a call. But I remember when we had this missile attack warning, pretty much everybody received the warning and buzzing of the phone. So how we can connect these 2 systems, because that system is really working, as everybody knows. And pretty much not me, not a few of my friends didn't receive anything as a test. So, and second, the education of community, as it was mentioned before, that people should have kits and food supplies, and also not running to Costco the day when it's happening, because it's usually what happens. I know the lineups and empty shelves, and also just find how we can educate people and get all these messages to the community, and also take care of the most vulnerable of the older population and people with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to testify for a first time? Second time? Mr. Sykos?
For the record, Lonnie Sykos. To the public listening to this, and I'm saying this with all respect for all the parties involved. FEMA, KEMA, they are not tasked with keeping the individuals in the public safe. Their primary task is after the event to have functional communications with the outside. We, the public, you are on your own. And a Category 3, 4, or 5 hurricane is a direct threat to your life. Need to pay really good attention to this, because 2 or 3 days before the storm is way too late to do everything that you can to protect yourself. So I have a 71-year-old Hicks home, single wall construction house. And my personal solution to this is I'm accumulating hollow tile, and I'm going to build in my carport hollow tile walls. I'm going to put a secondary roof underneath my carport roof. So if my carport blows apart, because it's 71-year-old lumber, that my modern lumber roof will stay attached to my hollow tile walls, and my vehicle and my pets and myself and my neighbors and whoever I can cram in there will survive the storm. But right now I don't have it built. Now, I'll point something else out. The use of social media will help drive up the price of everything as we try to recover, because the algorithms will look at it and will end up with dynamic pricing for everything that we're trying to order, whether it's the state, the county, or us as individuals. So recovery is hugely problematic, because we're going to get killed by dynamic pricing as we try and buy stuff. right? You need to retrofit your house. If you got an old house like mine, do what I did, go spend hundreds of dollars on Simpson ties, try and tie your house together better, do the repairs that you can, and you need to have a lot of water, a lot of food, all your medicines, everything you need for your pets, because you're not going to get it. It's going to take days, weeks, or months to repair our transportation facilities. I'll also point out that Matson's ships are designed to deal with this. It's why they have ro-ro ramps on the back of them. Whether or not we have the capacity to offload the containers is another issue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, anybody else second time? Okay, does anybody have any more questions? Or I guess we could bring Kima back up just in case they have feedback on the comments. I would say containing tourism is way above your pay grade, right? You can't stop that. That's would be HIEMA or Hawaii Emergency Management or...
Let me try to answer.
Yeah.
El Tenucio, Emergency Management Administrator. So our response framework, the way we operate is such that when a storm forms in the Eastern Pacific, or sometimes they form closer in the Central Pacific, staff is already monitoring, and Weather Service is monitoring. And by established practice, we commence with statewide all-partner coordination calls from approximately 5+ days out. And the vast majority of those storms may not pose a direct threat to Hawaii, or they may. So we still go through the same protocols. We have those 8 a.m. morning briefings. If any county goes into a watch condition, it elevates attention. And if any county goes into a warning or is anticipated to go into a warning, we'll go to twice daily briefings, statewide coordination. So I still participate in twice weekly Kona Low and Big Island earthquake recovery calls, even though we were not directly affected, because our county has provided support to all of the other counties in that response. Fortunately, we weathered those events better than the others. So suffice it to say, there is statewide, federal, county level coordination as any storm approaches. Our role is not just recovery and restoration. Pre-disaster, we do mitigation. Pre-disaster, a huge part of our mission is preparedness, meaning management of funding, training, exercise, equipment acquisition, what have you, for our partners. So those are front end. When bad things happen, we respond. Afterwards, we recover. So mitigation, preparedness, response, recovery are the 4 pillars of emergency management. So it's actually the full spectrum, and we're always working on one, if not the other. We're still working on recovery projects from prior disasters with our partners. So that's some education for public there. As far as bringing in experts from outside, a good example is Rain 18. Kima, because of your vision and our state-of-the-art emergency operations center, we were able to house FEMA and tidal basin consultants who embedded with us and augmented our staffing for 8 months following the flood disaster. So that's how we rock and roll. We are able to leverage the whole of the nation through something called EMAC, Emergency Management Assistance Compact, where we can pull in assistance from other states and territories to come here and help with us. And then the state with a major disaster will often leverage their major disaster fund and support us through that as well, bringing in more. And historically, we've come to many of you who sat on the council before for emergency appropriations to help us operate prior to when that outside assistance and financial assistance can come in. So thank you for that support in the past. It's pretty much all there. But we are not the only answer. And hardening at home, your own facilities, having your own plans is really where it all begins. So.
Thank you. I see that we need to take a caption break. There's so much more to say, but in case you've gone, when you come back from the caption break, I want to say thank you for this excellent presentation. After caption break, does anybody have more questions for him? After caption break, we'll have our discussion. And you're welcome to stay or...
I'll have one more thing I want to say afterwards that I wasn't able to get to. So.
Okay. So you'll come back. All right, excellent. All right. Caption break. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Thank you, KEMA Director Yoshio. So there was another question that you might want to answer about the depth of catastrophe that could happen.
Okay, so the 2 points, that's one of them, but there are two key ones that I wanted to address. So I'll do the easy one first.
All right.
As far as flights and airport and incoming visitors, we've learned statewide from prior disasters that government does not control that. It is a combination of the airlines themselves and then the federal authorities on the airports. It's very difficult. Even a governor cannot just shut down the airport and say, oh, nobody arrives. That being said, we don't really have good control or any control over what airlines will cancel, modify their flights, what have you, and when they will decide to cancel. There have been attempts to even work with the airlines to prioritize who gets off the island first, but it's historically been pretty much left to their own reservation system and what have you. But going back to that, when I talked about those coordination calls, we call them the 140 briefings when the hurricane is at or approaches the 140 at Meridian West, where we start the statewide conference calls. We are already looking at that. DOT Airports is on it. All partners are on it. And some informed visitors may be modifying their plans already or trying to either not come in or leave early. It's always a fine balance because if you look at the history of tropical cyclone impacts to Hawaii, statistically it's very small. So it's hard to completely shut down an industry when not too sure. But if you're under a warning condition, it's coming in for sure. It's a much higher threat level. Yeah, but again, it's not something that we at KEMA or the county controls as far as airline traffic, opening and closing of airports. The point about fatality, obviously that's a big concern for many people. And to be honest, we don't have projections for fatalities. We do know that fatalities were very limited during Cat 4 Iniki. I was around in Iwa too. I remember both storms quite well, but I don't recall the fatality statistics from Iwa. But what our subject matter experts and historical data has proven nationwide is that in hurricane events, wind is not the primary threat. The vast majority of fatalities are from water, either coastal storm surge or terrestrial flooding. Those create the most, those have accounted historically for the most fatalities. That is why it's very fortunate that we are now able to leverage better modeling for coastal storm surge. And that's why in our guidance, we say that, shelter-in-place considerations should include whether or not you're in a storm surge area or an area prone to river and stream terrestrial flooding. So knowing that those are the biggest threats, we want people to evacuate for sure if those are the conditions. Yeah, we can always do better on the wind side and the hardening, but that there again is where, like the gentleman who spoke said, he's making his own hardening efforts. We do encourage a community to put in your hurricane clips, do your continuous load path, your hardening, whatever you can, or make arrangements with friends, family, neighbors, or private facilities if you can shelter in place there. And as a last resort, or if no other options are easily available, you can come to a community public refuge area.
So when you talk about the water, Waita Reservoir, that's always a big concern right there in Kaua. If we had a high, is there a plan for lowering the capacity of that reservoir in the event of a very big storm? Yeah,
so dam safety program, it's a slightly different topic here, but every dam reservoir operator on the island of facility that's of a level that needs to be regulated has an emergency action plan and strategies that they use. The thing with Waita, it's quite unique. It's an extremely large freshwater body, and it takes a lot of water for that thing to get near overtopping. In fact, our subject matter expert partners say that Waita in itself while should it ever reach capacity and breach, it's a very bad scenario. On most day-to-day basis and even extended flood events, it serves as an excellent flood control measure where water is kept there instead of going into the nearby streams and stuff. So in a hurricane scenario, although you can have considerable moisture, normally those aren't our largest rain events because sometimes a storm moves slower, sometimes faster, but more often than not, it's not a sustained period of heavy rain. Now, if the hurricane were to happen when Waitao was already high or near capacity, that might be a concern. And it's very difficult on any reservoir or stream. Like we even look at, any reservoir or dam. If we look at Kaloko, when that gets high and we try to have them open up the gates to let out as much as possible, it really is a slow amount. So I think it's better where most of our partners will manage at a operational level that has quite a bit of ability to take additional moisture.
Okay, so we don't have any kind of numbers that we would think in the worst case if there was a hurricane that sat for a while. We when this Kona low storms, we had those. That was kind of rough what we went through with the Kona low, not for us, but for the other islands.
So I would say, you can't discount what Kauaʻi went through. It's just that much of our county is at a level of resilience that is quite high. We did get like Alexander get up to spillway level, but it's a concrete reinforced spillway, and that was flowing over the spillway for quite a while until the level came down. But again, the local resilience due to prior severe weather events, hurricanes, and record-setting flooding has positioned us quite well. So that's why you see even with our high wind events, when the rest of the state, you look on the news and roofs are blowing off, Kauaʻi tends to usually do a lot better. But we shouldn't rest on our laurels. Any hardening that people can do on their own would be very much recommended.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? I know that you're needing to leave. I keep getting questions coming in through my texting, but okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. And council members and team, do you have final discussion? Councilmember Holland?
Yeah, I'll just thank you so much for all the work and information. It seems pretty clear to me that a lot of the responsibility lays with individuals, and we've talked about that throughout the meeting. So I think there's been a lot of great, valuable information that's shared, and I'm hoping that people take it seriously. It always makes me stop and think about, what I'm going to do and what the options are for our community. And I hope that we do continue to move in that direction for long-term planning. But yeah, I thank you for all your work and the conversation and all of the, efforts that you've done so far. But also, whatever's coming in the future, doing your best to prepare for it. And yeah, I think it's concerning. I think there's some concern that we don't have the level of shelters that I think people would like to see. And I brought it up last year when this conversation came up as well. But, the long-term concerns around war and fallout and those kind of things, I do worry about, how our community will respond to those kind of scenarios. And it's hard to estimate what we're going to face. Like I said earlier too, I'm concerned about the drainage and our ditch systems, which have been largely neglected for decades since Iniki, and just the way water is going to move. And I just encourage us to keep working in the direction of long-term solutions on stuff like that. But I really appreciate all your hard work, Elton, and all of you guys.
Anyone else? Vice Chair Kuali'i?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I know we don't have a lot of money for the retrofits that is needed, but let's do what we can over time, little by little, and let's focus on our facilities, the convention hall, and trying to do it sooner rather than later, and work with the state on KCC. And we obviously need more capacity, so let's build our capacity and let's invest the money over time. Thank you.
Councilmember Bullasan?
Yeah, first I'd like to thank our committee chair for putting this on the agenda, and thank you again for the presentation team. What I was most excited and happy to hear about was the Coalition of the Willing. Just to circle back that, this is a beautiful thing to hear how we're activating available resources and building capacity. You know, when the announcements for what weather events that we're looking forward to this year came up amongst my team and family, we did our due diligence, and I think what we do at home is not normal. I think I talk about it in budget, and I talk about it on this floor a lot, how I'm a big fan of prepping for things. One thing I like to prep for is the zombie apocalypse, but really it's just a zombie apocalypse. I mean, like a Category 5 hurricane or some event that you just never thought would happen here on Kauaʻi. Only because I was 6 years old when Hurricane Iniki happened, and it imprinted in my mind the experiences that I had, and in a weird way, it was fun as a kid. And not that I want another terrible disaster to happen, but I just remember not having power for a long time, not having clean water for a long time, and sleeping under tarps because our roof flew off and we didn't have a roof for 6 months. And my dad was in the National Guard, and he was off to help the community, and we helped the community around our neighborhood, and it seemed like we were all together as a community. And every time we have these events, it just seems that Kauaʻi does so well in the area that we hope that our community would. Individually, we work really hard to take care of each other, and we come together. And so it's great to hear that the next tier levels, aside from self-preservation and community empowerment, that we have these levels of coordination at the higher levels. But my biggest worry is that complacency is one of the things that can be a killer of preparedness. If you don't get these unfortunate events, it's really easy to assume that will never happen to you. And so it's tough to have these conversations about preparedness and management, because it's a pre conversation, and so it's hard to talk with others in the community. And so I really want to thank the organization you guys do to spend the time of outreach, because it's one of those where it's like you don't want to get them to be worried, but you do. You want them to know that yes, if the transportation goes down and that 14-day supply is the only thing you have, but you didn't prepare for that, like that's an imminent thing that you need to do. But I know you got to buy food for today. If you could buy food for, that. So these conversations are necessary, and it helps for us to put this in the front of our community as much as possible. As this year is a very interesting year weather-wise, that knock on wood, we don't experience anything, but it'll be the best year to be prepared for. And so I hope that these conversations inspire others to take action within their homes, and others to continue to support each other in these challenges, because it really, if we can ban right now before things happen, it's always a better outcome for us. So thank you so much for this discussion.
Anyone else? No? Councilmember Carvalho?
Yeah, I appreciate the discussion. You folks, good job getting everything together. But as I've always said, it's not if, it's when. And so being prepared is a big part. And from what I've heard, from the strong relationships on the government side, federal, state, county, making sure we have that connected. And then the community side, you mentioned working with the hotels, the hotel industry, community, all of that. Just keeping everybody abreast and informed every step of the way. And I hear that's happening, so continue that, whatever support we can give. But we live in a place where disasters come our way, and we just got to be prepared. And I feel like we have a strong, solid base, and we just got to keep going and be ready. And that, to me, is the biggest part. So good job.
Anyone else? All right. Well, I will say thank you for coming, and I really felt it was important to have this discussion in part to emphasize the need for personal responsibility. I want to recognize the excellent work that KEMA has done again and again, pretty much been an emergency since I've been in office, so longer than I've been in office directly, so 8 years. And I'm happy that you're just sent some people over for Vibrant Hawaii, because I think CERT and Vibrant Hawaii and Firewise, we need to get the community a lot more organized to be taking care of ourselves. There's always risk in being alive. I use the phrase living is fatal, right? I'm not joking on that, but we have to be prepared, and it's not the government's responsibility to solve every problem. If we had enough alternative housing or alternative sheltering for 105,000 people, we probably wouldn't have a housing crisis. So I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge that the building code that improved so much after Aniki, that was great. And another outcome is we had homelessness. Not just because of that, but people couldn't afford to build houses any longer or own their houses. It used to be much simpler to build a little house and live in it. This is a comment on Mr. Psycho's comment. For us in Kilauea, my place, 18 days without water. We were solar, so we were fine, but the town was out for 2.5 months. No television at all for at least 2 years. I would think cell towers would be at high risk. We do have Starlink, but I think our internet access will be the least of our concerns. Honestly, it was kind of a relief being out of communication for so long. I will agree with Councilmember Bulasan that it was a real, mostly loving time of everyone coming together. I want to express gratitude to the other islands. Every emergency we have, certainly KEMA, I'm very proud of how much KEMA has gone to the other islands when they've been in crisis. So you all have not just the experience on our island, you have the learned experience helping the other islands. So I feel that we are in pretty good shape. I do want to just throw out to people who haven't done it, boarding the windows. I have my window boards are all identified, so I don't have to figure out which window it goes on ahead of time. Mattresses are a big deal. Fern, if you're hiding in your bathroom, put a mattress above you. So when the house starts to come down on you, and it just sort of keeps that extra thing. That said, there were mattresses flying all over the place during Aniki. I also find having something like a Berkey water filter is really important. I probably need to buy more of those, because if you just put a clean garbage can outside, that's not been used for garbage, and you can put a bag in it or something, and you catch the rain. If you're in the wet side of the island, you really got plenty of water. Scoop it out, and you just use it in that Berkey water filter. It was a real interesting time after the emergencies, learning how to make it. So I feel confident that we will at some point have more disasters that come at us. I would think far more likely than not, but we will get through it. We will come out better. But what I hope people will take home from watching this is we have a good team. We've got good organization on how to do the best that we can, but you also have to figure out your own plans, take care of yourself, and we're all better for it. And have a plan with your neighbors, too. So thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for working with the visitor industry. And I know you're a little late to a meeting now for that, but you're much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, move to receive. Yeah, so do we, all those in favor of the move to receive?
Aye.
All right, and the Public Safety and Human Services Committee is now adjourned.
I'd like to call to order the Finance and Economic Development Committee. Let the record reflect that all members are present. Clerk, can you please read the first item?
Minutes of the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget deliberation and preliminary decision-making session.
Move to approve. Second.
Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on the minutes? Any questions or discussion from the members? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Minutes of the May 27, 2026 Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on the minutes? Seeing none, any questions or discussion from the members? Not, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Seeing no further business and hearing no objections, the Finance and Economic Development Committee is now adjourned.